lovely to be here. Hi, everyone. I didn't expect that I cannot see anything. So if there is something, please yell at me. So how is everyone today? I think that we are in a strict timeline, so we're going to start. And first of all, I will introduce myself. So I'm Maria-Oraiozili Koutsoupia, and it's a pleasure to be the moderator today. I'm a lawyer by profession, so discussing about the intersection of regulation, technology, laws, and of course ethics, it's really close to my heart. Artificial intelligence has become a transformative force in the workplace. You all know that. Whether it's enhancing decision-making or automating decisions, it's reshaping the world. Some statistics to begin with. 1. By 2026, more than 80% of enterprises will have used Gen AI models in their enterprises. More than 80%. And the second one, by 2025, AI will displace approximately 85 million jobs. But it will create 97 million of jobs. So, kind of works. From a legal perspective, some responses and boundaries have been set with the AI Act. The AI Act is the European Union's regulation, and it is based on a risk-based approach, seeing AI more as a disruptive than a synergy tool. The EU AI Act places significant obligations to employers, HR departments, and some to employees. I will only mention 3 of them, just to make sure that we understand that AI Act also includes regulations for the AI in the workplaces. One of them is that AI is prohibited in terms of unacceptable risk. Well, that means no emotion recognition and manipulation in the workplaces. So that should be off the table. The second is that when used in high-risk workplaces, like in hospitals, it should follow very strict rules. And the third one is obligating employers that to inform their employees while using AI in the workplace. They have to be transparent, they have to have human oversight, and they have to have proper documentation in place for the employees to check. With that in mind, let's go to see what's the question today. How we regulate and treat AI today, not just legally, but ethically, business-wise, how do we treat AI today? It will determine whether it is a disruption, a synergy, or, I don't know, it could also erode fundamental rights. We will see that. Let's begin the first round of questions here. I will start randomly by Dr. Polymenakos, sitting next to me. So, Dr. Polymenakos, in your role at Earth Young, you're helping businesses integrate AI into their operations. So, from your experience, which sectors are seeing the most tangible benefits from AI? How should businesses prepare their workforce based on that?
Okay, first of all, also let me thank you all for being here and for being part of this panel. AI is a disruption in our lives, and it is already here. It's ante portas, let's say. Okay. I felt a hand suddenly, and all businesses are going to be affected, and the various also parts of a business, from finance to HR to marketing and so on, are going to be affected. Now, you asked me which business are going to be most affected. There are different evaluations that have happened there. There is one from the OECD, and there are others which say that maybe some marketing, some paper-pushing jobs are going to be affected, but a lot more will be generated. When we say affected, they're going to be automated or assisted by these AI tools. Now, talking about how AI transforms, let me say there are 5 ways, roughly, depending on interactivity and also on utility. So you have AI things that automate things. They operate on themselves. They take decisions. For example, the systems that are in your car, and they are collision avoidance systems. Okay, they operate by themselves and they provide a function for you. They are like a pixie, you know, some fairy protecting you. And then there are the other things that are a total interaction thing where you're just talking to it as a friend, but you're not doing much. And then there is a whole spectrum of things that you can do that are from a colleague or from some assistant that does the work and passes it on to you, to an interactive system that helps you complete your daily work or other things. So we believe the whole, let's say, industry is going to be affected, whether it is manufacturing, financial, media, all the sectors are going to be affected with AI.
Thank you. We will continue with a follow-up question later on that. John, so as someone deeply engaged in the ethical business, in the ethical dimension of AI, not business, the ethical, how do you view the balance between AI augmenting human decision-making and the risk of AI systems potentially replacing human judgment? And that could happen in critical areas like law enforcement or public governance. How do you see that?
Yes, so I think you're pointing to a very important issue, which is how we incorporate AI into the workplace in a way that augments the skills of workers, makes them more productive, makes their lives and work lives more meaningful for them, versus simply replacing these workers. So I think how do we strike that balance is going to be one of the great challenges ahead of us. And I think there are 2 forces that I want to mention quickly. One is what I would call disruptive innovation. So disruptive innovation, as I understand it, is an innovation that produces an inferior version of an existing service, but at a much cheaper price. And I think there's going to be a lot of impetus coming from AI companies to say, here is a tool that can make a decision, perhaps not as good as a human making the decision, but far cheaper. And many governments and others are driven not by higher quality services for people, for consumers, for citizens, but by saving money, by cost cutting. So I worry that this disruptive innovation is going to be a major factor, tipping the balance towards replacing judgment rather than augmenting it. But there's a second feature. Say we try to augment judgment by giving people AI tools. So say we give a judge an AI tool to help him decide whether a criminally accused person should get bail. And we say to the judge, the AI tool isn't making the decision, you're making the decision. But it might turn out, though, that the judges always follow the AI tool. We've given them an assistant and they're using it as a boss. Why? Because humans generally dislike taking responsibility. So they shunt the responsibility onto the tool. So 2 things. The kind of disruption that I've talked about, disruptive innovation, and what we would call automation bias. The way I think to deal with the first is to have greater democratic control over AI. The way to deal with automation bias is to increase literacy amongst people about what AI can and cannot do. And that will limit their ability to try to avoid responsibility by saying, yes, I know it's my assistant, but actually it's my boss.
Great. There is some hope in there. And let's move to the last question of this round, Vasilis. And AI has made significant advances in natural language processing and in speech recognition. So a very good example could be Alexa or the new version of ChatGPT. How do you see these developments amplifying human creativity and communication, especially in education, because we're talking about education here.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I would say that human language is the means for expressing our ideas, our thoughts, but also our emotions, and we communicate with others. The advancement of LLMs has unlocked the generative power for machines, and in a very amazing ways, they mimic human conversations, expressions, and some people think that these are the sparks of generic AI. However, all these complex systems are, there are billions of parameters for neural networks, and they have been trained on a vast amount of data, textual data, in particular for when we are talking about LLMs. And the way they learn, they contextualize, they learn by context. So they made relations, and actually it's not the same way like people understand language, the cognitive mechanism that people have. So in a way, coming now to education, Lazaros said that we are using AI. Students are using AI. So education has a transformative power of AI. Students are using it in particular in a different ways. Humans are minimum energy machines, so we try to find the easy solution. So students give the exercises that their teachers give them at home, and they do the exercise at home. We are doing a project on how students and teachers and the whole system, education system, is using in secondary education. And we are trying to have a system for the student for doing their homework. So somehow they want to ask questions, they want to summarize, they have the textbooks and they have some complicated words. So simplified text is very easy. So if you see that, we are trying to build tools and give the students examples on how they can use it in a productive way. At the same time, for teachers, in order to create lesson plans, generate educational content of addressing particular needs for their students, or provide feedback to their students on tests that is really needed for their particular answers. So, and coming as an educational system, we have to see the policymakers, how we can convince and how the educational system will put that in place in an ethical way.
Yeah, so many factors.
Of course, many factors.
They have to work together. And no further ado, let's move to the second round. I will now start with you again, okay. Vasilis. So you mentioned before generally what has to happen, but what about the Greek ecosystem? Where are we today?
We have seen that the Ministry of Digital Governance have integrated already AI in MyGov AI to produce, to guide the citizens in the very complex, procedures of gov.gr services. So that's a very nice example how you can provide services. At the same time, there are many enterprises that they are trying to automate their business internally. And this is in a collaborative way of AI system with humans. it is very important, coming from the research centers community, to create, try to develop AI systems in Greece. All these AI that we are using are not built in Greece. So it was a challenge for us that we built the Meltemi, and we tried to collect data to have access to high computing infrastructure, but also to develop talent, to develop our expertise. We learned many things, and I think that Greece is part of Europe. So Greek language is in a multilingual environment of Europe, and Greece is part of the how is called the Alliance for Language Technology in Europe. It's an organization in Europe, and
is there a problem with Greek being used in generative models? Does it create anything? The systems that we are using, they have been trained in English, and we have the transfer of the actual usage in Greek. So if you want to capture the culture or the soul of the language, then you have to unlock very high quality data, and those high quality data are not free. They are copyrighted. So somehow we have to develop in Greece an alliance for the Greek language and try to unlock for building LLMs for Greek that capture somehow the Greek thinking and Greek language peculiarities by getting all together data, infrastructure, and talent. Thank you very much. We hope that it will happen eventually. No? And let's go to John again. So in one of your recent articles, Work, Play, Reality, you highlighted the value of work, not just in terms of income, but also as a source of achievement and human flourishing. So, as AI systems increasingly take over blue-collar jobs or white-collar jobs, how do we ensure that people continue to take this happiness, this meaning from their professional lives? Is there a way?
So I think the first point is to emphasize, and this has been a great thing for philosophers, AI has forced philosophers to think about things we should have been thinking about before, like the value of work. And obviously the value of work is not just the income, it's not just the product that you're creating, the good or the service. It's also the process of skillful achievement, and that's very important. Also, the process of interacting with others in a form of friendship, in collaborating and producing something worthwhile. And then there's something further, I think. If we want to have a real democracy, we have to have citizens who feel that they are truly equal to other citizens and can look at those other citizens in the eye as equals. How do we sustain this ethos of democratic equality? Well, one important way historically has been through the sense that people are contributors through work to the economy, to the common good of society. So when people say, oh, relax, don't worry, if AI takes over all the jobs, you'll get a universal basic income, they're ignoring all of these important values. They're ignoring the fact that it's part of our self-esteem that we work and contribute to society. And this matters in general ways. How do we preserve this? I think it's a difficult question. Two things I would mention in response. One is we need not just democracy in the general creation of legislation, but also democracy in the workspace. So we see, for example, the German co-determination system where workers, together with management, get together to decide how to incorporate technology. And of course, the worker will have a special interest, not just in cost cutting, they'll have also an interest in preserving a meaningful work environment. Another thing I think we have to think about very seriously, and we see this already in the EU's GDPR, and we see it in the US as blueprint for a bill of human rights, for a bill of AI rights, that was produced by the Biden administration. They talk about a right to a human decision. So roughly the idea, maybe there are some decisions that we think you should have a choice. Does an AI take this decision or a human? Or if an AI does take the decision, I should have the ability to appeal to a human. Or maybe there are some decisions that are so important, that are so grave in their consequences, only humans should take them. So one of the things, one of the safeguards here is, it might be some decisions are simply not appropriate for AI, but we need democratic communities to think about which those decisions are.
Thank you very much. I think that today we haven't got to that point yet. There is no decision on what should stay in, what should stay with human.
That's right.
We're waiting for this. Thank you. Thank you very much. And a last question there. So, before AI became a dominant force in business, you, with your personal career path, had already built a wealth of experience in consulting and advising organizations. As you've witnessed the evolution of AI over the years, what are these historical factors or key technological advancements that you believe that paved the way towards today and AI's current role in workplace?
Well, the AI journey didn't start yesterday, or it didn't start with the hype about ChatGPT and the related technologies that came out a couple of years ago. AI has been around, let's say, as a concept since the 50s, as a computer science, let's say, discipline, because there were scientists who thought that maybe with computers we can emulate human intelligence. We have gone through many winters and summers in this journey. Some notable, let's say, advancements have been machine learning and then deep learning, and finally this generative AI technology that we have today. If we look back, I think the turning point was for the newer technologies was around 2000, let's say, roughly, at the turn of the century, let's call it, where we had a convergence of three things. One was scientific. Scientists found, engineers and scientists found that there were neural network architectures that you could train effectively, that's something that you couldn't do before, and these could be universal approximators to a system. So you could go directly from data, train this thing, and it would come out to emulate any function that you want, any system that you want. That was one. Then the next one was the availability of data. You mentioned how difficult it is for the Greek language to find data. However, on the web, there are tons of data, or there started to be tons of data that was free to harvest, to scrape, and use. And then we have that the computing around that time with memory becomes cheap. So large amounts of memory with computing become relatively cheap, and they became increasingly cheaper. So with these three things, suddenly we have already at the turn of the century, within the first, let's say, years of the 21st century, the capability to start building AI systems, which evolved a lot, of course. And we have the first systems being very successful in translation or in computer vision. And then these were systems built for purpose with deep learning, that is, systems that could correlate information at breadth and then at depth analyze it to extract features, and you build them for something like with your phone recognizing your face. But then we ended up with the newer technologies, which are the generative AI technologies, where basically you train these systems differently. You give them an instruction, context, that is text, for example, to work on, and then this task has to produce a result, to generate a result. And they are scored and trained on how accurate they are in this creation. That's why these new systems have already a lot of capabilities, that is, they do both translation, extraction of information, summarization, they create content, and so on and so forth. And they are tools that now you have to integrate with your data to do other things, They don't know your company data or other things. Anyway, this is, let's say, a small, let's say, history lane travel in order to say what happened these years and why we have reached this point and what to expect, what is the kind of technology that we have and what we expect for the future.
And just out of curiosity, before the disruption of ChatGPT and OpenAI, were there generative models before?
Yes, generative models, yes, started with a seminal paper by Google around 2014, but they exist even before with sequence-to-sequence models. Maybe I'm boring the audience, but I'm a technologist. Apologies. I'm a nerd. So what happened is that you had these systems that came about around that time, first for for embeddings, and then later for other technologies, where you have these systems where you take information, you encode it with a deep learning, and you have another deep learning stack to produce an answer. So in translation, you can imagine it very easily. You have the sentence, you analyze to understand what's going on, and then you produce the outcome. So this is the generative path.
Okay. One factor that accelerates all the developments is sharing code.
Yes.
People sharing code, computer code. So coding was sharing the code and sharing knowledge in an open way, accelerate things.
So it was the open factor.
The open factor.
GitHub, which became both, let's say, a blessing and now a menace, right? Because now systems were built that can code by themselves based on the best code that humans wrote.
So the first work that was disrupted by is coding. All the programmers.
Yes.
We have to move to the last, the $1 million question. It's my favorite question.
Do we get $1 million?
For this panel.
It's 1 billion.
So we only have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to go quick about it. And I'll start with you, John. So as AI continues to reshape industries, what is this one human skill or capability that you believe that will remain essential despite any AI advancement?
I think humans have a deep need to be heard, to be understood, and to be empathized with. And no AI system that will ever be created will be able to do that for a human in a way that another human being can, because they share a human form of life. And this is a skill that you need whether you're a taxi driver or a psychiatrist. That's the skill.
Thank you so much. What about you? So,
it's a skill and ability. Think out of the box. The approach, thinking out of the box. AI are making, correlations in the context, but the ability of having the big, the main big view of the things and see from different angles, challenge what is mainstream. So go against the mainstream and question things is something that I think is invaluable.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Dr. Polymenakos?
Okay, so already valuable skills have been spoken of, important skills, so I'll say another one, adaptability. So the ability to adapt to new situations, new environments, learn new things that we didn't know before, and our intuition around them are going to be a major, let's say, differentiating also factor from machines.
Perfect. We have 3 different crucial skills there. Thank you so much.
Thank you also.
Thank you.